Welcome to Dram Street. I'm Mike, and today on Scotch 101, we're tackling one of the most understood topics in whiskey, added color. Don't forget to like and subscribe below for honest Scotch reviews and straight up whiskey education. If you've ever seen the words "no added color" on a bottle and thought, wait, why would they be adding color to my Scotch? What are they adding? You're not alone. So today, we're going to break down and fill you in on why are they adding it? What are the effects of the color? And whether you should actually care. All right, let's get into it. So what is it that distilleries are actually adding? The short answer is caramel coloring, more specifically something they call E150A. It's also known as a plain caramel color. E150A is not syrupy, it's not like a dessert caramel. There's no sweetness to it. It's not flavored. According to Wikipedia, the food grade coloring is made by heating carbohydrates, usually sugars, until they kind of get a darkened kind of tone. Under Scotch whiskey regulations, this is the only additive allowed, nothing else. So by law, Scotch must be made in Scotland, made from water, malted barley, or there can be some other grains mixed in for grain whiskey, and aged in oak for at least 3 years. And of course, it has to be bottled at a minimum of 40% ABV. The only thing you're allowed to add before bottling is water and caramel color. That's it. No flavoring, no sweeteners, no vanilla extract, no fake sherry boost, just color. So why would they want to add color? There's 3 main reasons why distilleries add caramel coloring. First, consistency. So what does that mean? So as we know, whiskey is a natural product. Every cask matures slightly differently. Even if it's the same distillery, the same warehouse, same age statement, same type of barrel, the color can actually slightly vary. One batch of 12-year might be slightly lighter. Another batch slightly darker. Consumers, whether they admit it or not, expect consistency. If someone buys a bottle of their favorite 12-year-old every year, and one year it's noticeably paler, you might think, did they water it down? Is this a bad batch? Did my current bottle, why is it different from this? Did it go off? Is it younger? Even if the flavor is identical. So many large distilleries add a tiny amount of caramel coloring, simply to make sure that every batch looks the same on the shelf. It's about brand consistency. Okay, secondly, consumer psychology. So here's the reality. People associate darker whiskey with like a richer flavor. I'm guilty of this. We just do it. Some people think darker equals older, or darker equals sherry cask, or darker equals more intensity. But that isn't always true. You can have a 15-year refill bourbon cask whiskey that's relatively light, or you can have a younger, heavily charred cask whiskey that's quite dark. Okay, side note, if you're not familiar with what a refill cask is, check out my Scotch 101 segment on casks. The link is in the comments below. Color does not equal quality, but in the world of retail, perception matters. If 2 bottles are sitting right next to each other and one looks a darker amber and the other looks like a pale straw, most casual buyers will assume the darker one is better. Distilleries know this, so sometimes color is added to meet expectations. Okay, reason number 3, large-scale production blending. This is especially common in blended Scotch. When you're producing millions of bottles per year, pulling from hundreds or thousands of casks, maintaining visual uniformity becomes more important. So, brands like Johnnie Walker, Chivas Regal, Famous Grouse, these distilleries operate at enormous scale. Their customers expect the bottle to look the same every single time, so color adjustments become part of their quality control. But does it affect the flavor? This is the controversial part. From a purely technical standpoint, at the levels used in Scotch, caramel coloring is considered flavor neutral. And in most cases, it probably is. We're talking about extremely small quantities. However, some whiskey enthusiasts will argue that it can slightly mute texture or maybe alter the mouthfeel, especially in higher amounts. There's debate around this, but if there is an effect, it's got to be very subtle. You're not going to suddenly taste caramel syrup. What's going to affect the flavor more are the factors like chill filtration, the cask type, the cask quality, age, even warehouse conditions, bottling strength. Coloring is low on the list. So why do some distilleries refuse to add color? This is where the no added color label comes in. Many distilleries, especially in the last 15 to 20 years, have leaned into transparency. For example, the Glenallachie Distilleries Company, which we have already kind of talked about, Brookladdy's the same sort of school, Springbank, they very often bottle non-chill filtered, natural color, and higher ABV. They do this because there are enthusiasts out there that highly value authenticity and minimal intervention. For these brands, variation is part of the charm in marketing. One batch slightly darker, that's natural. One batch slightly lighter, that's natural too. They're essentially saying, we trust the whiskey to speak for itself. Should you care? This is where I'm going to give you a balanced take. If you're new to Scotch, don't stress about added color. It does not automatically make a Scotch bad. Some absolutely fantastic whiskeys contain caramel coloring. What matters far more is the usage and experience with the casks, the bottling proof, the distillery character. However, if you're comparing two bottles at similar price points and one is natural color and non-chill filtered at 46% ABV, that often signals a more enthusiast-focused product. It doesn't mean it'll necessarily be better, but it tells you something about the production philosophy. So here's the biggest misconception. Darker Scotch is not automatically older or better. The color comes primarily from the casks used. A first fill sherry cask can make a 10-year look darker than a 20-year-old refill bourbon cask. So never judge solely by the color. In fact, some of the most elegant and complex whiskeys in the world are surprisingly pale. So, what am I trying to say here? Here's your takeaways. The only additive allowed in Scotch besides water is caramel color. It's used mainly for consistency and consumer expectations. It likely has minimal impact on the flavor. Some distilleries choose not to use it for transparency reasons. Color does not equal quality. The real question isn't, does this have added color? What the real question should be is, do I enjoy what's inside the bottle? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. This has been Scotch 101 on Dram Straight. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think about adding color.